Hi class, let's talk about the body section of your post this week. So what you'll need to do is talk about whether or not your main character progresses, is dynamic, and is well-rounded. In order to understand if a character progresses or is well-rounded or is dynamic, you have to understand the mechanisms of characterization. So let's start with progressed, whether or not your character progresses. So I'm going to use the example of Frodo in Lord of the Rings. In the beginning of Lord of the Rings, he's a typical normal hobbit, but he might have some of the leanings of Bilbo, his uncle, but he is pretty much like every other hobbit. However, at the end of the trilogy, he is no longer the same hobbit. He has changed, and in fact, he's changed so much that he can't live in the Shire any longer, and he has to go off to the Lord of the Rings version of Heavens, or the Middle-earth, actually, version of Heaven. And so, first off, you could kind of see Tolkien's experience in World War I coming, maybe being a factor in terms of shaping Frodo's character, but in the sense that he has progressed, we see that he has changed. Now the question is, how do we see he's changed? So this goes to the mechanisms of characterization. So in order for a filmmaker or author to express if someone has changed, they'll use indirect or direct characterization. So for example, if I want to show you that Frodo has changed, I will either do so directly or indirectly. So directly would be Frodo saying, "Look, Sam, I've changed, I've become someone new." That would be direct characterization. Whereas indirect characterization would be a filmmaker or the author showing you Frodo maybe sitting off at the party, drinking alone, being sad, distant from everyone. He has changed, and we're showing that through his actions indirectly. So when you're looking at the movie this week that you picked, look at specific scenes and you can tell whether or not the filmmakers are expressing the character's feelings either directly or indirectly, and then you can sort of tell whether or not they've progressed or not. If the character's still acting the same way at the end of the film that they did in the beginning, they haven't progressed. And so you could either look at that directly or indirectly. So for instance, if the character was a bad guy at the beginning and they wouldn't save someone, and for money, like Han Solo, he'll only do things for money in the beginning. At the end, he saves Luke, and he's changed, right? That's the Star Wars Episode 4. That he no longer cares about the money, he cares about friendship. So we can see that directly or indirectly. So just look at specific scenes, and then you can sort of see the mechanisms in terms of the indirect and direct, and you can tell whether or not someone has progressed through the story, or in this case, film. Alright, I know it's a lot to kind of go over this week, so I would recommend you go back to the PowerPoint/PDF thing that I made last week on characterization. That might help as well. But when you're just basically looking at whether or not someone is progressed, you have to look at the mechanisms first in terms of indirect or direct characterization. Alright. If you have any questions, please ask me via email or in the instructor area, or post the discussion boards. Talk to you soon.